Think about the physical actions you take 1,000 times a day. You pull a screen from your pocket, tap the glass, and flick. You grab the metal tab on your jacket and pull the zip up to your chin without a second thought. We are usually taught American history through a series of high-level abstractions. We memorize the dates of treaties, the geography of battlefields, and the names of presidents. But the history that dictates our behavior isn't stored in the halls of Congress. It's archived in the mundane, physical artifacts of our daily lives. We can track the trajectory of the country by looking at the micromechanics of two seemingly boring objects. When you zoom in on a single mechanical tweak, you see how physical engineering bypassed the legal system to change the way we work, live, and interact with each other. In the 1840s, inventors were failing to build a working sewing machine because they were stuck trying to mimic the biology of the human hand, attempting to push a needle and thread completely through a piece of cloth. The mechanical breakthrough happened when engineers moved the eye of the needle from the top, placing it directly at the sharp point. This allowed the needle to punch a thread through the fabric, mating a second thread underneath to create a permanent lock stitch. While the mechanism worked, these early machines were heavy industrial tools, far too expensive for a single family to buy outright. To get these machines into homes, the Singer Company pioneered the consumer installment plan. It allowed families to take the machine home immediately and pay for it in small increments over time. This made the sewing machine the first complex modern machine to enter the domestic space. It established a new expectation of technical mastery within the home as women learned to operate and maintain high-precision equipment before the automobile's arrival. But the identical machines were also purchased in bulk by businesses. This shifted clothing from a home-based craft to a system of hyper-fast mass production. This industrial scale created the sweatshop era, leading to the 1911 Triangle Shirtwaist Fire, where 146 workers died. The disaster turned public sentiment against the industry, forcing the creation of modern labor safety laws. By adjusting the location of a microscopic hole in a needle, engineers inadvertently provided the infrastructure for credit-based ownership and the American labor rights movement. Before 1950, radio was a shared family activity. The technology relied on fragile glass vacuum tubes that required a massive wooden cabinet. Because the radio was heavy furniture, the adults in the living room controlled exactly what the family heard. The shift began during the Wizard War of the 1940s. The military needed these massive, complex radar systems, but vacuum tubes were too delicate and too large for the battlefield. Engineers at Bell Labs solved this by developing the semiconductor transistor. It was a tiny sliver of material that could amplify signals without the heat or the bulk of a glass tube, allowing electronics to shrink. In 1954, this technology arrived in the Regency TR-1. It was the first radio small enough to fit inside a shirt pocket. For the first time, audio was portable. You could physically walk away from the living room and take your media with you. This portability allowed young people to consume media in private. They could listen to music and programs their parents didn't approve of without adult supervision. This private consumption fueled the rise of rock and roll. It provided the infrastructure for a distinct youth culture, centered around music and rebellion that could only happen when the family unit was physically separated. A tiny sliver of military-grade silicone moved the location of the listener, providing the privacy that defined the modern adolescent experience. This brings us back to the device you are using right now. Your smartphone is the point where these two timelines converge. It relies on the mass manufacturing systems established by the sewing machine and the semiconductor physics pioneered by the pocket radio. A collection of historical objects is a record of our behavioral programming. These artifacts show us how we were trained to interact with the world. If you want to see how society will change next, look at the tools you are currently using without thinking. Look at the mundane objects on your desk. The next reorganization of our social behavior is likely already happening in our pockets. We simply haven't zoomed out far enough to see the impact yet.